we will talk to you about the Los Angeles Kings, who finished third in the Pacific. This is going to be the first full year of Jim Hiller. He took over for a team that was in fourth place at the time of them firing Todd McClellan, but really whipped them into shape. They went 21-12-1, got third in the Pacific. I think really had a respectable season last year for all of the madness that they were enduring. And as a result of all the madness, they've kind of trimmed some things, cleaned some things up a little bit. You mentioned Victor Arvidsson. It's going to be a big loss for them, but I think a more welcome loss, which is they pulled the plug on the Pierre-Luc Dubois experiment without having to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's where they are.
And as a result of that, they get Darcy Kemper. And so not to belabor the point, like this season is going to come down to goaltending. Like they need to figure out goaltending. They're going to live and die by their goaltending. And I don't have a ton of faith in it. I like their team. I like their lineup. I think they've got a lot. And like they're going to be a pretty hardworking team, good forechecking team. If they don't get the goaltending, it's not going to fucking matter.
So I think you seem like you're not a David Riddick guy, which is
no.
I mean, he didn't prove. None of us proved to be a David Riddick guy.
One's called him Big Save Dave. At this point, I would take any Save Dave, please.
Okay, so it's interesting that you go right to goaltending. You know where I go, which is where I usually go, down the middle, because they pull the plug on Pierre-Luc Dubois, move him to Washington.
Who I saw live on Tuesday night, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
yes.
right.
He did play in that
Sean
game.
got to see.
He was
the legend, PLD, in the Capitals uniform.
I should have gone.
It was beautiful.
It should have been me.
He was on a line with Tom Wilson. It was very fun.
That's the Capitals are going to be awesome. That's your Kings preview. No, they needed Pierre-Luc Dubois to be the second line center, but really eventual successor to Andrei Kopitar. Now that becomes Quinton Byfield, who
And he's certainly more equipped to do that.
I think it makes a lot more sense for him
Yes.
to do that. But now Quinton Byfield goes from playing with other guys who can kind of be the breadwinners of that line, and Byfield, hey, you just be the scorer, to now, I mean, right now, actually, this looks like a pretty bitchin' line. Daily Faceoff has Quinton Byfield on the second line between Kevin Fiala and Warren Fogle. 5-on-5, that's kind of my time. I like that line a lot, but it's what's he going to be in this first year of this 5 times $6.125 million deal that can immediately look like a sweetheart of a deal if he ends up being really a good top 6 center. But that's kind of the story for me with the Kings is how does the reorg work for them?
I think it's going to be fine. I don't worry about them down the middle. I still think they're really fucking strong. Like, I expect Byfield to be good. And like maybe even we can put a stamp like a rival season if it wasn't last year. I think that he is going to vault himself into superstardom, whether it's this year or next year, but like soon. I don't worry about their lineup as much as I worry about the back end and specifically goaltending. It's just I think they're going to be good enough. I think their system is good enough for them to contend, and it's just like really kind of begins and ends for me at the goaltending situation.
But they tightened it up with Hiller, and they finished with like good numbers as far as goals against went and as far as penalty kill went.
Hey, thanks for watching the channel.
We appreciate everybody who checks out our stuff, but 80% of our viewers are not actually subscribed to this page, so if you could smash that subscribe button, it would go a very long way for us.
The more subscriptions we have, the more visibility we get from YouTube, which allows us to do more.
So press that button. Thank you. A good thing for them is that they had 5 20 goal scorers last season, and they're all back. Trevor Moore, Kevin Fiala, Adrian Kempe, Andrei Kopitar, and Quinton Byfield. But especially in relation to one of those names that I just mentioned, we are kind of on window watch because Andrei Kopitar is 37, Drew Doughty is 34, and yes, Byfield is the future, and you have other contributors that are 27, 28, but it's kind of now or never for this Kings group if they want to get those guys another one.
Yeah, but like those guys are still cooking. Like they were really good last year.
Kopitar, yeah.
And Adrian Kempe might be my like most favorite underrated guy in the league. He rules.
He's your favorite like 4th best player on a team kind of thing.
Yeah. Like I would love to have him on basically any team. He's just like he can do everything. Yeah, it's like their back end, like maybe some vulnerability in spots, but I just think that they're one of those teams that they'll be in the mix, and it's just, do they have the strength in like every area where they won't get exposed when they run into a team like the Oilers again? Like I don't know. I don't know if they're bulletproof.
I'll be honest, I don't think this is a particularly good roster, but
Really?
I do, or like a particularly.
I think it's a good roster, but it's not a bulletproof roster.
We also just talked about the Oilers, so maybe like I'm looking at a normal NHL roster after looking at a stupid, ridiculous NHL roster. But I think that this is maybe the season where they either fall to being a wild card team or maybe just fall out of it. But as we'll get to with other teams in the Pacific Division, maybe teams that are usually there won't be there anyway. So they'll be in the mix, I'll say.
and they probably won't be that exciting, but like they'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, they don't jump off, like with the exception of Byfield. I think he's probably, maybe if you want to say like Doughty, he's like I don't even want to throw Doughty in there because like Byfield is probably their like showstopper.
Yeah.
And that might be it.
I think a lot's riding on Byfield, and not as much as was riding on PLD last year. But I was going to say, for as much as I'm not blown away by this roster, I do think last year was probably a season long. Like, why isn't this working? With the, like you experience a coaching change, and even Hiller was an interim coach at the time, so it was just kind of like, we don't know who's going to be here. Now they did enough in the offseason to establish like, this is what we're working with. This is what it's going to be. And not to make it all about like, hey, the bad guy's gone with Pierre-Luc Dubois, or hey, the bad guy's gone with Todd McClellan. But I think the PLD experiment had to be frustrating and confusing for teammates last year. So to have it over and be like, all right, this is what we are down the middle. And we haven't mentioned Philip Deneau, who very good option as a third line center.
Oh yeah.
So
lockdown guy. That's the guy that I want as my third line center.
Yeah, I don't hate them. I was going to say I don't hate them. I don't love them. But I actually like generally do love the Kings. So I don't hate them. I love them. There's your Kings preview.
We all silly like the mayor.